Okay, so now we're going with TAS again, but we have to check and make sure it doesn't desync again. It could desync any number of times until we get the SRAM to cooperate with us. So that's the save data RAM. Okay, let's hope that the RAM cooperates and gives us a good start here. Syncing up. Okay, that's good. Come on. Good, here we go. We should be smooth sailing from now on. So what you should have seen already is that we got Cyndaquil instead of the usual Totodile for a Pokemon Crystal run. And that's because Cyndaquil's Tackle ends up being more useful than Rage. Tackle crits, getting us out the gauntlet faster than building up Rage stacks in the TAS environment. And then once it gets Ember, it's in like really good shape, because the Ember burn helps save some turns. Like, there are some fights against Totodile and Croconaw where you burn with Ember and save a turn, so you don't have to be Embering for 5 turns, or instead of Embering for 4 turns, you only have to Ember for 3 turns because of the extra burn damage nudging you over the threshold. So here we don't have Ember, but we do have Tackle. Those Tackle crits coming in hot. Smoke screen, who needs that? A little bit of swag extra grass there that you have no need to walk through otherwise. I like that. I like that swag. Gotta make sure we talk to our mom before we leave. Can't leave without talking to the mom. And we need a Pokeball. Oh no, we left without talking to our mom! There's our Poliwag. Need a Poliwag for Surf later. And I believe it has a few other uses. And I love the finesse there that Wint did, where after you catch Poliwag, it goes to daytime. Heavy Potta, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the calculator. So yeah, feel free to ask questions as we're going along with this. I have some info about the run. I'm not as knowledgeable about Gen 2 as Gen 1, but I've been learning now, watching the various playback attempts we've been doing. almost a Faulkner. Yeah, you can see here how 2 tackle crits killing a Pidgey is just so much faster than anything else you could be doing for Faulkner. Down with Faulkner! So I should pull up the splits for the Crystal World Record. It doesn't look like Pokeguy has his splits up, so, but I should be able to figure that out. Yeah, so Pokeguy's Faulkner split and world record is a 1624. And I believe that we're in there at like the 13 mark. Route 33. Slowpoke well. Oh no! One! Look at that tackle crit. Look at that glorious tackle crit. Tackle crit into non-crit. Getting it done. But Croc's bad one. So the order in which you do the tackle crit and non-crit doesn't matter in this gen because the HP bar changes color as it's dropping. So what Wint's doing, MrWint is doing with his TAS is simply taking whichever order gets the fastest outcome. The least amount of delay. Snack! Snackins! Rat Moose? We found the Slowpokes! We're gonna rescue the Slowpokes! Oh, I feel you there, dude. I feel you. It's so hard to nap sometimes. Oh no, we're poisoned! But we got the coughing. So we're gonna get... What Syndic will evolve into? We'll find out right now. I forget the name, because I'm bad. Kolava. That's what it is, it's Kolava. Kolava! Getting close to Bugsy here. Come on, TAS Videos Forum. Don't fail me now. Looks like there's some updates. So they're just talking right now about... Oh, bro. Bro. Oh, that's just blonde from earlier. I can't see all my Twitch messages, my chat on screen sometimes. But yeah. They're talking about how to get the emulator out so that we can have the new optimized MrWint TAS part of the submission process, because technically you can't submit a run until it's verifiable on a released emulator, and the version of BizHawk that this syncs on is not fully released yet. We're getting pretty close to Raikou. And that's when things start to kick into next gear. We made it to Goldenrod. Zachariah Hadra. Zachariah. Hello. How are you? So we're doing this as a console playback and not just a playback on an emulator. And my emulator playback doesn't have an input viewer right now. Or my console playback doesn't have an input viewer working right now. I'm going to try to get that working again soon, but it wasn't working when I tried to start the task today. So we know this should work already because I tested it once for a capture for YouTube, but I'm just doing it once as a live playback so that people can watch it live. We're gonna beat Whitney. Boom. There goes Milk Tank. Yep. Every single fight is manipped. Very precisely. And if you're talking about like between revisions of the TAS, so the only thing that's really improved with this new TAS from like the one we did a week ago was last week's TAS was there were a lot of little small delays all over the place. So it's harder to see those as a viewer. The weird tree attacked. It's Sudowoodo. And yeah, this is MrWint's Crystal Glitchless TAS. So this isn't a TAS I did. This is MrWint's Crystal Glitchless. Oh yeah, dude, all the time. There's all sorts of things I'm working to improve in Gen 1 again, and I hope to have movies out eventually with the improvements. But once you like have them so refined, finding improvements and then also making a new TAS takes a long time. So maybe like in a few months we'll have a new pass at Yellow Glitchless. Oh, it can, yeah. It certainly can. It doesn't usually take hours for every little part, but it certainly can if you're trying to really optimize something that's difficult. Like when I find the... a great example is the Pokemon Blue TAS, where we fight the hiker in Rock Tunnel and make him self-destruct 3 times with Gen 1 misses. Finding an optimized version of that fight can actually take days, just alone, looking for that fight. So. But then other sections, like where you're just hitting Horn Drill, like that's really easy to find an optimal Horn Drill hit. So there might be 15-20 minutes of the run that I can get done in a few hours. So it's all dependent on how difficult the RNG is for whatever section we're looking at. We're gonna go get Suicune. Did I say Suicune? I meant Raikou. Lol. And we get, okay, there's a bunch of reasons why I want to get Raikou specifically, okay? Raikou is great because it has a lot of Pokemon power in a lot of its moves. Oh yeah, Raikou's been nipped. Everything's been nipped. Everything's been nipped. But we gotta get Raikou specifically because there's a lot of Pokemon power in a lot of its moves. So we like rarely, if ever, have to use elixirs and things like that to maintain PP. And another great benefit of Raikou over Entei can do more damage with Iron Tail, but Raikou has a shorter cry. So you save a lot actually, of little incremental time using Raikou because of the cry length. We can, but sometimes we don't want to because sometimes we want a move to not crit because it's going to kill anyways. And then if we had gotten a crit and it would kill anyways, we would lose time because of that crit text box. So you don't always want to manipulate the crit. That would be a great April Fool's joke for next year, actually. I mean, I would not be opposed to doing like an April Fool's shiny TAS. Maybe eventually. We should eventually be able to console verify Gen 3 TASes, but the emulator for it still needs some more work to be able to do stuff like that. So it's really just a question of whatever the emulator is ready. Uh-oh. That's not a good sign. My capture card messed up a second. Well, that's what happens when you have live playback. No, Gambate is only for Gen 1 and 2. For Gen 3 and... Well, really, specifically for Gen 3, we use MGBA because it's a Game Boy Advance emulator. Gambate is only a Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulator. So we have to use MGBA to do Game Boy Advance TASing. And then still, in MGBA, it's not accurate enough to be perfectly accurate to everything that happens on the console. So... Hey, we've got Spark. Get some stab. Same type attack bonus. Another thing is that the Gen 3 TASes have been redone more recently. So, the Gen 1 tasks that I did were like, when I had done them, there was either nobody had done it before, or it had only been done before in a different language, or it was like really, really unoptimal. So for a great example, somebody did a NSC task that manipulates a level 100 Gengar in the Viridian Forest, and that task is about the same time as the current yellow Glitchless TAS. Despite the fact that it has a level 100 from the start of the run. Like, that's how unoptimized some of the older Gen 1 runs were. So because we've like heavily optimized those Gen 1 runs now, and we've also already got mostly optimized Gen 3 runs, there's not too much of a worry to go back and do anything with Gen 3 right now. Morty down? Rick and Morty? Oh, dude, I love questions. Questions are great. It's a 3-hour long movie, so the more questions, the better. Because we're going to be here for another 2 hours. Hitmonlee. Going down. Machoke. Black belt knob down. I should grab a glass of water in a second here. But can we defeat Leader Chuck? Of course we can. We've got freaking Raikou. TM1 Dynamic Punch. That should be useful. I think it would be a good idea to do that too, since I don't have the spot for the input viewer on the left. I could split along with the current RTA world record. Just a second, grab water. Getting Gyarados. Hey, we found Lance. We should split up. That's funny. We should split up. Yeah. So, like in RTA, Pokeguy has a 310 in this game. And we, in TAS, have a 248. So, we are 22 minutes faster in TAS than the current human world record. Kerbis, welcome by the stream, dude. We're doing a live playback of MrWint's latest optimization pass at Crystal Glitchless in 248.36. Don't know that one off the top of my head. You can't see the top pixels? Well, that's unfortunate. Let me see if I can fix that. There you go. Not a big deal since this isn't the archive. I've got the archive version up on YouTube already. This is just a live playback so you guys have that live experience, getting to watch it happen with me in the chat. No, dude, it's fine. I am similarly bothered by my own incompetence. But for the 4K version, it's going up on YouTube. I've got a bunch of scripts that ran so that it should be totally fine. I am doing okay. This is a little bit of a slog here, watching. Because I've watched like 4 or 5 of these all the way through already, so I'm certainly not the most excited I've ever been to watch a Crystal Glitchless TAS, but I am doing fine. Really hoping this works out. $3DS. Well, the problem with 3DS is that the only emulator that exists for it right now is closed source. So we need to write an open source emulator for it. And then we also need to write it accurately enough to handle all of the, you know, corner cases of the 3DS. And I'm sure it's super complicated because of things like firmware. Yeah, it would really be quite the adventure trying to get something like a 3DS TAS working. But I bet that like console verification is still possible for DS and 3DS. It's just like a lot longer ways out than, like, we have Gen 1 working, we have Gen 2 working. The next frontier is Gen 3, right? Gen 3 we have TASes of, but we don't have console verified TASes of. And people like Ndrift would be the people who would need to be really interested to get that working. Hi Mixtra. Yeah, there aren't any splits up right now. We're playing back a TAS, so the splits don't compare that great with RTA. But I mean, I could. No, Citra is not open source. But Mixtra, I can tell you that this TAS we're playing back here finishes in 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 38 seconds. Or 36 seconds. 2 hours, 40 minutes, 36 seconds. Which is about 22 minutes faster than the current RTA world record. Oh, Citra is open source. Ignore me. At least there's something open source about it now. Maybe they changed this recently. Yeah, Nixtra, there's a 13-year-old TAS of gold that used Graveler. This is a improvement that just started a few weeks ago from MrWint, which is 6 minutes faster than that old gold TAS from 13 years ago. I am James Ritz. I'm currently console verifying. I lost my train of thought. I'm currently console verifying Crystal Glitchless in 248.36 by MrWint. So the tests we did a week ago were on a slower pass at the game that was only 2 hours and 49 minutes. So we've improved it by like a minute since then, and this is also 3 seconds faster than the initial submission task. So this is the final product we've got that's going to be ready for submitting whenever the next version of BizHawk comes out. And I am playing it back here live for you to watch. You can see I have no hands on the console. It is all doing itself. Apparently I'm not too familiar with Citra because somebody told me the other day that it was closed source and they were incorrect, potentially. So, console verification of a task is where we take the task that we've done in an emulator and we send the inputs to a console so that we're verifying the accuracy of the emulator in playing it on the console. So that's why we call it console verification. I am looking forward to Sword and Shield because I really like that the newer Pokemon games are so much easier to capture with having a native HDMI connection. Like, that's been a really big benefit for the popularity of Let's Go speedrunning, and I think that with Gen 8 could just be, like, assuming that people like the games, Gen 8 could be really, really big for the Pokemon speedrunning community. It would be really cool if we could organize, like, a rotation of people the first week that Gen 8 comes out to always be streaming. So we could have, like, a week of Gen 8 going on the Pokemon Speedruns TV. I think that'd be really cool. We got the Glacier Badge! I expected it to be bigger than the usual launch because of how restrictive... Like, we've all seen the last few weeks people asking in our Discord, like, hey, how do we capture 3DS and DS games? And we're like, you can't right now. Unless you potato cam it, because it's so prohibitively expensive to buy 3DS capture. I thought what Worcester did with it was crazy, playing like a 9-hour run of it, like the instant it came out. Yeah, to some extent, though, it definitely didn't translate perfectly because they did change like which Pokemon are available where, and they made Eevee and Pikachu freaking OP. And with the Koga thing, they gotta catch a bunch of stuff. They did a lot of changes. That will be pretty crazy, like, because, okay, so I guess one thing you could say is we knew a lot of the places where to look for stuff because we had a general idea of the map, but Gen 8, we won't have an idea of what the map looks like, so there's going to be a ton of having to, like, explore every nook and cranny of the map, just trying to find random things. I would say that, like, in general, the TAS is worse than the run in terms of, like, the Gen 2. Gen 2 has issues with boringness, period, because you're like massively over-leveled for very large sections of the run. And the TAS is even worse about that to a large extent because you've pre-programmed everything to happen exactly the way you want it to. So not only are you massively overpowered, you're massively overpowered and you can choose everything to happen exactly the way you want it to. It has less suspense than like the Gen 1 tasks where you're at 1 HP constantly, barely maintaining red bar and barely killing things because you're also massively underleveled for where you are compared to your opponents. And yeah, there's basically like one main reason for that. There's two reasons. The main reason is they give you access to Raikou way too early, in my opinion. I think. Yeah, because you get torrent strats and stuff later. But then I think if they had let the legendaries out just before or just after the Elite Four, it would have been a lot better in terms of the gameplay experience. And then on the other hand, they also make way too many trainers mandatory. There's just way too many mandatory trainers. And that isn't just a problem with the length of the task, it's a problem of there's no competition because you've gained all this experience that you usually wouldn't have. It is going all the way to red random do. And welcome by the stream. I hope you enjoy watching MrWint's Crystal Glitchless TAS in 2:48:36. Yeah. They lock that behind RNG mostly. So the fact that we're a TAS breaks that. But then the number of trainers really also impacts how slow the mandatory trainers impacts how slow Crystal Glitchless is for like Totodile or for Alligator as the main. I remember trying to catch Latios casually in Gen 3 being like the slog of a lifetime. I played Ruby the most casually. I played Ruby a crap ton casually. I was actually into speedrunning Ruby segmented in high school. Because I only knew about speedrunning from the SDA forums, and they had the segmented runs. So we would do runs of Ruby trying to get the in-game clock as low as possible. wants to see our rare Pokemon. Is he a Pokemaniac? Yes, he is. Pokemaniac Donald. See, like, this is the epitome right here of everything wrong with Crystal. We're fighting a level 10 Slowpoke with a level 46 Raikou. Why? Oh, a level 7 now? Okay, I lied. That's the epitome. That's the epitome of what's wrong with Crystal. Mandatory fight against a level 7 Magnemite with a level 46 Legendary. I see no problems with this. Oh yeah, I bet that any sort of Gen 2 ROM hack massively fixes this problem. We're making good progress, though. We're getting pretty deep into the TAS here. We've probably got only a little bit more than an hour left in the TAS. Let me check here. Shiny hunting. Sounds fun. My fiance Jen did a lot of that in Let's Go. I am. I'm getting married in August. Wow, that's quite interesting. Rocket ruined. Send out Radicate. 9. We got the clear bow. Gotta love the Ice Path Viking, where he spins at every possible chance. That is just some technology. Boom. We're to Blackthorn City. me check how deep we are into the run now. Okay, now we're about an hour out from the end. It is not for anything, it is empty space. I apologize for the lack of layout clarity. What we are doing right now is we are console verifying a Pokemon Crystal Glitchless TAS in 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 36 seconds by the MrWint. We are playing it back on console using Game Boy interface to send inputs to the Game Boy player over the GameCube's high-speed port. I don't think nothing glitched out too bad. I mean, we have the same problem in Gen 1, right? Like, Gen 1, we have instant text from the bike shop, but it's still glitchless because we have a very restrictive definition of glitchless. And we need to because we wouldn't be able to do speedruns at all if we banned every... You would not be able to play Pokemon Gen 1 if glitchless meant not doing any glitches at all. So... Cool. You watching VLC via like the RTMP digest or something? I've done that before for marathons, plugging the URL straight into VLC. Oh, instant text is for a different task completely. This is a Gen 2 task. I was talking about Gen 1. Gen 2, the glitchless isn't that big of an issue. There's not too many game-breaking glitches in Gen 2. But in Gen 1, the label glitchless is definitely not terribly transparent. Yeah, Streamlink, that's what it was. We did that with a marathon once. Right into the Pokemon League soon. We have impeccable skill and spirit. We got the Rising Badge. Lapras! We're riding Lapras. We're riding Lapras. Cool trainer Beth. So I'm working with another guy right now who's going to be able to try to independently play back the TAS on his own system. And that way we'll have confirmation of how accurate the RTC is between consoles and between cartridges. I've got more good news. I have some work from Blaze Flozard, who has been tassing Pokemon TCG, and we may be able to get that playing back on console. Will! We gotta beat Will! Elite Four Will. Oh, another thing I was talking about in terms of the length of the game, it's a lot longer than it should be in the late game because the HP bars drop slower than they're supposed to. They're supposed to drop like 1 pixel per frame, but they end up dropping 1 HP per frame. So a ton of the time in the late game comes from the HP bars being coded improperly. Just a few more Elite Four members, and then we have to do Kanto. Elite Four Bruno down. Gotta beat Karen. Got him. Vile Plume down. Almost done with the Elite Four. And then we just have to soft reset and do Kanto. Ugh. Where do I think it could be further improved? Well, that's a good question. We already found 2 improvements that we sent to MrWint, because his original upload in 249.39, that was right, 248.39, didn't do a strat where you can talk to a PC from the side, so it took an extra step in one place. Because it had to take an extra step to get in front of the PC instead of use it from the side. So we told him about that, and then he missed nicknaming Polywag, which saves a lot of time. That's pretty cool, dude. I'm happy for you. So we already kind of like collaborated on some of the improvements, so I don't personally know of any off the top of my head. But it's likely that some things could probably be found slightly faster, because this run was entirely botted, and a lot of times the robots will like miss things that humans can find, because robots can only brute force. They can just do everything possible, They don't know, like, okay, if I try this, this is likely to be fast. If I try this, this is likely to be fast. They don't know anything about that. They just do everything. So, but they can't actually be taught to do everything, because if you have... having them do everything is too many different combinations of inputs. So you have to, like, have them do everything but not do everything. So, if we went back by hand and looked at every input in this run by hand, it might take a year, but you could probably save a few frames here and there. And now we're in Kanto. We're in Kanto. We're in Kanto. So we've still got like 40 minutes left. Heading up Route 6. Gonna take down Leader Sabrina? And her Espion? And lastly, Alakazam. Got him. We should be about half an hour from the end now. Half an hour away from having fully verified Crystal Glitchless in 248.36 live. It is Oryx. I am very happy with the state of syncing. Things have been going well. Neat. Glad you found it. I love doing those podcasts with Amoeba. He makes a great podcast. Does some great prep for it. And yeah, once it finishes transcoding, there is a YouTube video up I have on my channel of this in 4K. So if you've got a 4K TV, you should be able to watch this in 4K 60 FPS whenever it finishes transcoding. It's got to do a 720p, 1080p, 1440p, 2160p. He's back! Welcome back. You're getting to the good stuff. We've only got about 20 minutes left in the run. I will take a second here to refill my water. Yeah, you might not think it's very useful for 4K random do, but it actually does look quite different because, and I'll explain why. When you watch it back at a lower resolution, so like what I'm showing you right now is 6x scale to 1080, you can often see little gaps between each pixel, and you don't really get that at all with the 4K encode. And the other great thing about the 4K encode is that it's at native frame rate, because the original Game Boy is at 59.73 frames per second, a little bit less than 59.73 FPS. And the encode I do for YouTube that way has that exact native frame rate. So if you have a variable refresh rate monitor and some other technologies going, you can watch it in the original frame rate. Otherwise, it'll just like skip a frame here and there to get it to play back properly. Should be about 20 minutes out from the end now. So the way it works out is you wouldn't actually want to watch it at 480 specifically, or even this stream at 480 specifically, because it doesn't have an exact multiple of the original pixels. So if you watched at 720, you'd be getting a 4x4 pixel, so 16 pixels for every original pixel. If you watch at 360, then you get 2x2 pixels for every original pixel. Because the original Game Boy is, the Game Boy Advance at least is 240 by 160. So 480 by 320 will fit inside 360p. And you'll have two pixels in each direction for each original pixel. In 360p. Which is plenty enough to get all of the information across, even in, like, with all the hacks that they do in modern video streams. Now the problem is that YouTube doesn't really allocate enough bitrate to get like a lossless representation. So there's a few things you can do to fix that. For one, the 4K upload is giving way more bitrate than you would ever need for this at 4K. So that helps get it looking lossless, even though it's lossy. It's like basically lossless. Then at 1080, you have 6 pixels by 6 pixels in each direction, so 36 original pixels. And there are still some artifacts from the lossy encode, but they're really, really minor. They start to show up a little bit more at 720p. Oh, yeah, no worries. So we're doing the Surge fight now. We're getting pretty close. We're probably just over 15 minutes from the red fight now. Down to the wire. So for the whole thing to work, whenever the whole thing works back on console, with how long Crystal is, it's 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 36 seconds, right? That corresponds to 41 billion cycles in the original Game Boy. So we're emulating 41 billion individual actions by the CPU exactly, and getting the right result straight to what happens on the console. It's 82 degrees outside. Yikes. Oh, 79 now. It's not a must. It's simply we're doing it to say that we can do it. You can submit tasks to task videos that aren't console verified all day, but this is being done simply to say that we can do it. It's part of like the whole TASBot thing. TASBot, the Dwango AC's project, is a project console verifying tasks, and so I work with Dwango a lot doing these console verifications. And we just do it, like I said, to say that we can do it. It's as a sort of like exercise in technical proficiency and hardware intricacy. Saying that you can do something is a cool thing to be able to do. Exactly. And there's so much technical complexity to these verifications because of the layers of things that can go wrong with different clock chips and different parts of the Game Boy, all having to line up just perfectly. Oh no. The first time this was possible, or the console verifications were possible, was last year when we started doing it for the Game Boy. For the Pokemon Blue TAS. The Blue NSC TAS that GIFX did is what he originally designed the emulator accuracy improvements for. And then we found more emulator accuracy issues doing my Pokemon Yellow Glitchless TAS. And then we found more emulator accuracy issues doing this Crystal Glitchless TAS. So we've been just slowly improving the accuracy of the emulator over the last year. And before that, there was a major series of efforts that made this possible by people like Leor Halfon, Gekio, Jonas Javanen. I can't say his name properly. It's like Swedish or something. Exactly. Yeah, you can actually fit the Game Boy perfectly in 4K at 15 by 15 pixels. The problem is that you have to do it at least. You wouldn't want to do 15. You want to do 14 by 14 first off, because YouTube's videos are encoded in 420, so it cuts the chroma resolution in half. So if you did it by 15 by 15 or 13 by 13, you would lose the color of every other pixel. Every seventh pixel. It would be really gross looking compared to doing it at 12 times or 14 times. So then, instead of doing it at 14 times, we do it at 12 times so that it downscales well to each of the lower resolutions. So the 1440 encode is an 8 times, which still half that is 4, so that works. Half of 12 is, so 1080 is at 6 times. You can have that exactly to 3, so that works with the 420 chroma downscaling. And then 360 is 2 times, and half of that is 1. So 360 even works properly. And 720 is a third of 4K, so that's 4 pixels, half that is 2. So every downscale resolution works perfectly at 12 times. So the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to do a 12 times scale to 4K. And then anybody who watches can get a similarly good looking encode no matter how high they go with the resolution. And the highest resolution, the 4K one, is just for the real purists who want it to look exactly like the upload. It should be very, very similar at that point. And I don't know if anybody here knows, but what we had to do to get the video that accurate was, so we have extremes as GBI HF, which is tuned to have these exact pixel dimensions from the original Game Boy, added 2x2, and then the GameCube messes up the resolution of every other pixel because the GameCube outputs in 422. So the color of every other vertical column of pixels is interpolated from the nearby pixels. So we drop those interpolated lines and then copy over the non-interpolated lines, and that works because it's a 2x scale already. So you have, if you drop every other vertical column, you have half the vertical resolution, which is the original vertical resolution, and then you duplicate that back out, so now you have it 2x. And then if you do a nearest neighbor scale, you can scale to whatever you want from there. So the pipeline to get this looking this beautiful requires lots of steps between the GameCube video output, capturing that accurately with a digital signal, using the I use the Eon Mark II for a digital output to HDMI from the GameCube. Because I don't know, again, I don't know if any of you guys know this, the GameCube has a digital output port that can be converted losslessly into an HDMI signal. So we use that to get lossless video from the GameCube without missing any pixels, and lossless digital video from the GameCube. And then we, on top of that, what was I saying? We have to account for that 422 problem with the GameCube doesn't actually output the full chroma resolution. So that's just all getting out of the GameCube. And then once we get into a computer, we can do all the fanciness upscaling to 720, 1080, 4K, whatever we want to do for YouTube. Yeah, and YouTube can actually accept 8K and 16K uploads, but there's the only monitor that exists right now that is 8K is $4,500, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm not spending $4,500 on a TV. So, I'm not doing 8K uploads. But it is technically possible for me to do 8K on YouTube. Got the soul badge? We're getting really close to the end, guys. I am excited. So now we're in Celadon to fight Erica, I believe. Twins Joe and Zoe. Yeah, is this one like really weird? Because of it not being Gen 1 but looking kind of like Gen 1? Yeah, I never played Gen 2, so if I had tried to TAS this, I probably would not have done nearly as good of a job as MrWint. I'm glad he stepped in to build this TAS, get the emulator working better. Beauty Julia. Made it to Erica. Losing Thundershock for Crunch so that we have some more Pokemon power restored. Erica down. So now we gotta do the Giovanni gym. And then it's just blue and red. So there's 3 fights left. Oh, I'm dumb. I forgot. Blue is the leader of the Giovanni gym. Leader Blue. Pidgey God, you're going down. And Rhydon. Dat. Crunch. Crit. It really surprises me that that kills in one hit, but I guess it shouldn't be surprised with that bad. Spark. Spark Crit. Executor. With the crunch crew. Ah. That is less surprising then. Good old Spark Crit. Level 62. So yeah, a big reason that this run is so much faster than RTA, and well really the RTA has improved a lot lately, is that you skip like 20 levels by changing from Quilava to Raikou, and then Raikou only gains 22 levels himself, or 23 levels I think in the end, going from like 40 to 63. So you skip a bunch of level up animations, effectively, by using the legendary instead of just keeping the main the whole time. Of course, before save and quit manipulations, the legendary dogs were never viable because you couldn't repeatably obtain them. Alright, time for Bonkless Mount Silver. Let's go. We're gonna make it. So yeah, you have people like Lior and Gekio working on the emulator accuracy for Gen 1 for a long time. We were able to pull a lot of that accuracy in for the Gambate speedrun emulator to make everything accurate enough for speedrunning. And then we ported a lot of those fixes back over to the Gambate emulator that is in BizHawk, so that BizHawk could be accurate enough to do stuff like this. And then GIFVex and MrWint were instrumental in importing a lot of those changes. I ported in a few of GIFVex's changes last year, but mostly it was just GIFVex and MrWint's work pulling everything together to make it accurate enough that every cycle is exactly the way that the console behaves. And of course, gotta give a shout out to Extremes for his Game Boy interface software, allowing us to pipe these inputs into the Game Boy player over the GameCube to Game Boy player connection, the high-speed port for the GameCube. Blastoise? He's down. Blastoise down. Red was defeated. And there you have it. Crystal Glitchless live console verification, all 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 36 seconds. Wang bro, thanks for stopping by for the clapping. Appreciate all the follows today from Diego, Unanu, Toaster Guy, and Heavy Pada. Welcome to the calculator, hope you enjoy your time here. If you guys really like the stream, feel free to drop a subscription for Taikeva Whattrav and the new emote Taikeva Desynced that I made specifically to symbolize the desync that we found at Irvin, trying to dial in the real-time clock accuracy when we were working on this task. Anybody got any questions while we were finishing up the credits? Otherwise, I'll just wrap up the stream from here. Push the video over to YouTube and sound off the alarm bells. We did it! We've got MrWint's TAS fully verified and optimized.